The smell of ozone and hot metal filled the cramped garage where brothers Joe and Casey stood before their creation. A sphere of mismatched steel and humming capacitors, the chronomoth was their shared obsession. Joe, ever the cautious planner, ran final diagnostics on a flickering monitor, his brow furrowed with concern. His eyes darted to a dusty photograph on the workbench, their smiling parents, a painful memory. He thought, this is what they were chasing, a beautiful lie. Casey, restless and impulsive, gave the hull an impatient pat. Stop worrying. 2,000 years, Joe. Think of it. The flying cars, the utopia, he beamed. Joe's voice was quiet, a stark contrast to his brother's excitement. The official history talks about a golden age, Casey. But their last entry? It wasn't a log. It was a warning. Casey's face hardened with defiance. They were explorers. They knew the risks. We can't stay here, buried in the past, afraid of shadows. He gestured toward the machine. This is their legacy, our legacy. I'm not running from it. Outside, a quiet suburban evening unfolded, streetlights casting long shadows, oblivious to the temporal breach about to occur. Seeing the unshakable resolve in his brother's eyes, Joe knew he couldn't protect him by staying behind, only by going with him. He took a deep, resigning breath and sealed the heavy hatch. Strapped into the cockpit, his finger hovered over the activation panel. He engaged the primary sequence. Reality dissolved. The viewport erupted into a vortex of blinding, chaotic color. A violent shudder racked the sphere, pulling them brutally from their own time. Their garage, their home, their entire world simply vanished.
The scout ship Vigilance sliced through the silent void. Inside the cockpit, pilot Kalen's hands danced across the holographic controls, his reflection a confident grin in the polished console. All systems green, Commander. Trajectory to Sector 7G is locked, running as smooth as a Terran monorail. Commander Rostova watched him, her expression a mask of professional calm. Her own console displayed classified data Kalen couldn't see. Good. Keep her steady, Kalen. High Command wants this patrol charted perfectly. Hours passed in the hum of the life support system. Suddenly, a soft chime broke the quiet. A new icon blinked on Kalen's navigation display, a faint, unstable energy signature. Commander, I'm picking up a ghost reading. Unidentified. Definitely not on the charts. Rostova leaned forward, her eyes narrowing, not at Kalen's screen, but at her own hidden one. It's likely just sensor interference from the nebula ahead. Federation tech gets twitchy in gravimetric distortions. Log it and maintain course. But the energy profile is strange. Non-baryonic decay. I've never seen... Rostova's voice cut through his curiosity, sharp and final. I have. Log it, pilot. Kalen fell silent, his fingers tapping the command. The trust in his commander warred with the mystery on his screen. As they neared the coordinates of the ghost reading, the void ahead transformed. Shards of metal and crystalline structures tumbled through space. It was a graveyard. Proximity alerts screamed to life. Debris field, evasive maneuvers. A piece of twisted hull plating, the size of a fighter, slammed into their port shield. The cockpit shuddered violently. Steady, Rostova commanded. Use the ventral thrusters. Find us a path through. Kalen guided the ship through the maze of wreckage. And then they saw it. Parting the metallic clouds was a vessel of impossible scale and design. It was dark, silent, and fractured, a gaping wound in its side leaking frozen atmosphere. By the stars, Kalen whispered. What is that? The ship was a lattice of bone-like struts and dark, organic-looking armor. No markings, no lights, just a profound, terrifying silence. Rostova finally looked away from her console, her face etched with grim reality. That is why we're here. Kalen turned to face her, his eager confidence completely gone, replaced by dawning confusion and fear. Here? But the patrol. Rostova's voice was low, heavy with the truth she'd been holding back. There is no patrol, Kalen. Our orders were to find the ship, the anomaly. And now, she brought up the mission file on the main view screen.
The objective was clear. Assess and secure xenotechnology. Survivors unlikely. Engage if necessary. Our orders were to go inside.
Kalen's optimism was a tangible force on the bridge. He saw the anomalous readings as a prelude to discovery. See, Zara? The star chart was right. This asteroid isn't barren. It's a signpost to the Terran legacy. Or a tombstone, Kalen. The ship's grav dampers are fluctuating. These readings are unstable. Before Zara could argue further, armored figures erupted from the metallic shadows of the landing bay. Before they could process the chaos, a squad of the armored rodents surrounded them. Their leader, a grizzled hamster with a scarred eye named General Whiskerforth, regarded them with cold suspicion. Outsiders, your ship broadcasts the same frequency as the Devourers. Dragged into a sprawling, high-tech burrow beneath the asteroid's crust, they learned the grim truth. For centuries, the Rodentia free clans have battled the Xylos, silent invaders from the stars who seek to exterminate all life. They follow signals like yours. Kalen saw the impossible ingenuity of the hamster warrens, glowing fungus for light, intricate tunnel networks, and tiny workshops crafting plasma casters from salvage tech. Kalen whispering to Zara, "Incredible. This is proof. If they can do this with scraps, imagine the Ledisi's power." Zara, however, saw only the courage of the hopelessly outmatched. This is us, a failing ship, a blind hope flying straight into the jaws of a predator we don't understand. To Kalen, I see a warning, Kalen. Look at the cost. She gestured to a vast memorial wall, names etched deep into the stone. The stakes were no longer abstract. They had a face, covered in fur and fueled by a desperate will to survive. The signal that brought you here, it isn't a guide. It is a lure, a trap set by the Xylos. Kalen's certainty finally cracked, his hopeful expression replaced by the sudden cold weight of Zara's secret fears made real. The ghost nebula swirled in hypnotic veils of purple and black across the Stardust's cockpit view screen. They were docked with the derelict, a silent metal tomb. Zara's face was tight with worry. Kalen, I'm telling you, the energy signatures from this wreck are a trap. The encryption on that data fragment was wrong. On her console, nested energy patterns spiraled erratically. It's designed to lure someone in. Kalen stared past the nebula, his eyes fixed on a future only he could see. It's a risk we have to take for the legacy, Zara. Suddenly, a piercing alarm. A proximity alert flashed crimson across the dash. Dozens of insectoid Xylos fighters swarmed from the nebula's shroud. A strafing run. Green plasma bolts began stitching across the derelict's hull. "Shields failing!" Zara yelled, her fingers a blur. "They're not targeting us. They're targeting the station's stasis creche. The odds of those colonists surviving?" Kalen watched the stasis pods shatter under the barrage. He made a choice. Then we changed the odds. He unstrapped and sprinted to an auxiliary engineering panel. "I'm rerouting the experimental void shield projector." Zara's head snapped up. "Are you insane? The feedback could vaporize us. Kalen!" Protest is logged. Ignoring her, his hands flew across the glowing interface, bypassing safeties. Deep within the Stardust, the ship's core pulsed with blinding white light. Outside, a shimmering dome of raw energy materialized over the threatened creche. Just in time. The next volley of plasma bolts struck the dome and deflected harmlessly into space. The act saved the colonists, but it sent a massive energy signature screaming across the system. On the tactical map, a wave of energy pulsed outwards, a beacon in the dark. There was no going back, he thought. We are no longer observers. We are combatants. The fighters broke off, their mission complete. A long pause. Zara stared, her expression a mix of shock and grudging admiration. "You saved them? But, Kalen, look." She pointed at the sensor display. "That flare just broadcast our exact position and tech signature to every Xylos warship in the sector." Kalen stepped beside her, a grim smile touching his lips. "And it gave us something else." On the main view screen, the feedback loop had decoded another layer of the legacy data. A new set of stellar coordinates burned brightly. A new clue. On the edge of contested space, Commander Eva Rostova and Lieutenant Jorik Kale became humanity's sharpest assets. Eva's daring led critical reconnaissance missions deep into Xylos territory, always pushing the boundaries. Jorik's methodical mind helped the Aegis's engineers refine their defensive grids, predicting enemy patterns. Yet, the Xylos Collective adapted with chilling speed, their tactics evolving to counter every new strategy. Then came the anomaly. A strange, deep hum began to emanate from the void, a rhythmic thrum that resonated through the ship's hull. Jorik's console traced it, a ghost frequency that shouldn't exist. It was unsettlingly familiar, like a half-forgotten dream he couldn't quite place. "Commander, I'm flagging an unusual energy signature. Low frequency, patterned. It's pervasive." Eva, eyes on the forward view screen. "Command dismissed it as alien war drums, a new psychological weapon. Keep your focus on the Oracle coordinates, Jorik. That's the priority." "But this feels like something else." A beat of pause. "Then treat it as a variable, not a distraction. Rostova out." But Jorik couldn't shake the feeling it was more, a signal or a call he almost understood. He obsessed over it, analyzing recordings in the ship's quiet hours, searching for a pattern. The deep, resonant thrum pulsed through his private console, a cosmic heartbeat. He stripped away layers of stellar interference, filtering the noise until the signal was pure. And then he saw it. Not a weapons frequency, but a complex, structured call for help. A distress signal. He triangulated the source. His blood ran cold. Jorik burst onto the bridge. "Eva, the hum! It's not the Xylos. It's coming from the Oracle's coordinates." Eva spun in her command chair, her eyes wide as Jorik's tactical data flooded the main screen. The signal was a beacon. And they weren't the only ones who had heard its call. A Xylos scout fleet was converging on the same location, and closing fast.
The void was absolute, a silent theater where their ship, the Stardust, was a lone actor approaching a skeletal stage. The derelict station, a jagged silhouette against the maw of a black hole. Inside, Kalen's knuckles were white on the controls. "Intel says the entry port is just ahead. Looks quiet," he said, his voice a low hum of determination. His monologue was internal, a constant whisper. "For humanity. For all of them. I can't fail." Zara watched her console, her expression tight. "The energy readings are unstable, Kalen. This isn't just background radiation from the singularity. The signature is active, repeating." She didn't dare say the word trap. "Just be ready for anything," she hedged. The Stardust breached the station's obsidian hull, magnetic clamps locking on with a percussive thud. The airlock hissed open, revealing the ship's interior. They navigated sterile, silent corridors, their footfalls the only sound. The mothership's rhythmic hum grew louder, becoming an all-encompassing vibration that seemed to sink into their bones. A panel overhead sparked erratically. "Strange," Zara murmured, her scanner whirring. "Life support is stable, but secondary systems are failing everywhere. Or being kept low intentionally." Kalen pushed forward, rifle at the ready. "The informant's layout is perfect so far. The cipher's chamber is through these doors." Zara glanced from her scanner to the massive portal, a pit forming in her stomach. The signal was screaming now, just beyond it. With a low groan, the heavy blast door slid apart. And there it was, the stellar cipher crystalline automatic, pulsing with a soft, hypnotic light. "Kalen!" Zara yelled. But it was too late. The ambush was sprung. As the first plasma bolt flew, the stellar cipher flared with blinding intensity. It wasn't a map. It was a key. The chamber's floor became a transparent screen, showing the stars outside. On the display, and visible through the station's viewports, the derelict vessel's primary weapon system began to power up, its massive barrel aimed not at the black hole, but back towards the distant, unsuspecting Terran fleet. Zara's face was a mask of horror.
It's a relay. It was never meant for us. They used us to activate their cannon.
Rostova. Jax, status. Jax. Doors breached, Captain. No hostiles detected. Yet. Moving in. The team advanced down the silent corridor, weapons ready, expecting monstrous insectoids or gray-skinned horrors. Rostova glanced at Thorn, whose eyes were wide with scientific curiosity. Thorn, any reads on that energy signature? The legacy artifact Fleet Command is so interested in? Thorn, it's overwhelming. A constant, low-frequency resonance. Not like any aethal core I've theorized. It feels organic. Jax, bridge is just ahead. They stormed the bridge, weapons sweeping across the cavernous space. Rostova, hold positions. Scan for threats. Instead, they found a vast chamber bathed in soft golden light. Tall, slender beings in sleek black uniforms stood at consoles, their backs to the team, moving with an unnerving, liquid grace. Jax, Captain, they're not insectoid, not gray. What are they? One of the beings turned, its movement impossibly fluid. When it faced them, the truth struck them dumb. A bipedal, highly evolved creature with unmistakably feline features. Thorn. My God. Rostova lowered her rifle an inch, her composed expression cracking with disbelief. Is that a cat? The lead feline being opened its mouth, and a complex symphony of purrs and chirps filled the air, a language of pure vibration. Rostova. Jax, is the translator picking any of that up? Jax. Negative, Captain. It's not registering as language, just frequency. Thorn's eyes darted from the creature to his data slate, a look of dawning comprehension on his face. The resonance, the ship's hum. It wasn't a weapon. Captain, the aethal core is the purr, a colossal, technologically amplified purr of contentment. He pointed to a central column, pulsing gently with the deep, rhythmic sound. The lead feline gestured to a star chart where the Sol system was highlighted. They weren't invaders from a distant star. They were the descendants of humanity's other pets, bioengineered and sent away millennia ago. Another feline turned, its yellow eyes locking onto Jax. It let out a low, inquisitive hiss. Rostova. The legacy. Fleet Command knew. They knew what they were. The lead feline's gaze shifted to Rostova's rifle. Its long black tail twitched once, a sharp, deliberate motion. They had simply come home to find it occupied by their ancient, instinctual prey.
The silence on the Legacy's bridge was the loudest thing Commander Rostova had ever heard. It wasn't an absence of sound, but a presence of quiet. Strange bioluminescent filaments pulsed softly within the crystalline walls, a sight both beautiful and deeply unnerving. Dr. Thorne stared, mesmerized. The fractal patterns, Eris whispered. They're responding to our life support systems. A hive mind. A biological orchestra. Suddenly, the filaments flared, twisting from ambient patterns into constricting tendrils that lunged into the open space. They weren't striking, but hurting. Commander! Eris yelled. Eva shoved him back towards their shuttle's airlock. It's not attacking. It's reacting. The first team, their message, a sentient echo, a silent song. They didn't understand. A desperate epiphany ignited in her eyes. It was all a tragic, cosmic misunderstanding. The signal, Eris. It's all about the signal. They raced back through the alien corridor, the walls now glowing in aggressive crimson, pressing in around them. Eva slammed her palm against the airlock control, sealing them inside their shuttle, the Nightingale. She scrambled into the cockpit, ignoring Eris's frantic warnings. Eva, what are you doing? Standard protocols dictate we withdraw. Ignoring the complex equations of first contact physics, Eva bypassed the core comm systems. Their song is silent because they listen for the right frequency, she murmured, more to himself than to him. She rerouted all auxiliary power to the external emitters. On the main view screen, the alien ship's aperture began to close around them like an iris. Eva searched her personal datapad.
Not for a treaty or a surrender signal, but for a specific biometric file. You can't just broadcast randomly. You could provoke it, Eris pleaded. She found it, a recording, not a plea for peace. Instead, she amplified a simple, powerful sound across all frequencies. The unmistakable rhythmic pulse of a calm, human heartbeat. Outside, the hostile crimson light softened to a warm, welcoming blue. The constricting walls were seated, pulsing in perfect time with the broadcast. Their silent song finally answered.
Claws of plasma tore through the void as felinoid fighters swarmed. On the battlefield below, hamster-piloted mechs returned fire with surprising ferocity, their tiny forms weathering heavy impacts. The war for the ancestral feeding grounds raged. From their small, cloaked vessel, one of the brothers watched the chaos. A sound. A memory, he whispered to himself. Is it enough to bridge this chasm? He nodded to his sibling, who engaged the broadcast. A single, resonant, metallic sound. The effect was instantaneous. The sound wave, a ghost of forgotten kindness, washed over the conflict. Across the battlefield, the relentless assault ceased. Felinoid warriors paused mid-strike, their great heads tilting in unison, ears twitching at the ancient call. The mothership's aggressive hum softened to a murmur. On the hamster comms, there was confusion. "Status! What was that sound?" a frantic voice squeaked. "All channels silent, General," an operator replied. Then, nothing. The can opener sound was a symbol of sustenance, of peace, a time before the conflict. It was a bridge of shared history. In the minds of 1,000 soldiers on both sides, a flicker of an image, a giant, gentle hand. A single tear traced a path through the fur of a battle-hardened felinoid sniper. "They remember," the second brother breathed, his face illuminated by the console's glow. A channel opened from the felinoid flagship. The holographic form of their Grand Marshal appeared, his usual snarl replaced by stunned gravity. "You heard it too?" he projected, his voice rumbling. The grizzled hamster general materialized opposite him. "Our creators. Their call. We have been fools." The rage was replaced by a profound, shared sense of loss. "A truce," the marshal declared, his voice thick with emotion. The general simply nodded. "We are not enemies. We are orphans." A truce was declared, not as enemies, but as estranged, feuding children of Earth finally laying their ancient instinctual rivalry to rest.
Weeks later, their task complete, Joe and Casey prepared for the journey home. From the cockpit of the Chronomoth, the world below was almost unrecognizable. "Joe, we didn't come here to be heroes. We just held up a mirror, and they finally saw themselves." "Casey, all systems green. The temporal drive is spooling. Ready to leave this place behind?" "I don't think I'll ever leave it behind. Not really." Look. Below them, the world was transforming. Sleek felinoid ships now landed peacefully in designated zones. Their crews, once warriors, worked alongside hamster engineers to clear rubble and begin reconstruction. The sky was no longer a battlefield, but a shared highway of hopeful transit. On a rebuilt balcony, General Whiskerforth stood beside the felinoid prime, watching the Chronomoth ascend. A silent, profound understanding passed between the two former enemies. "Casey, it's really over. It's just beginning." The brothers had not discovered a utopia. They had stumbled into a generations-long tragedy and, through a shared memory of home, had given two warring peoples the chance to build one. As their own time enveloped them, the view outside began to shimmer and distort. The lights of the world below blurred into streaks of color. Joe and Casey shared a final, knowing glance. Their last sight was not of the past, but of a possible future. A hamster and a felinoid, standing together on a hill, watching a new sun rise.